morning. Welcome to the newspaper review right here on our Impact Radio 102.1 FM. It is a Friday edition of the newspaper review, and of course, as usual, on the program, we make it our best, or we make it our duty, I get to say, to give you the very best of all stories that made front page of the papers that we have with us today, and we'll try our best to analyze some of them for you to understand what those headlines are talking about. And of course, we'll also give you the opportunity to be part of the program where you get to call us up or reach out to us via WhatsApp or the regular text message. And the number for you to call us at is 0704 425 2109. 0704 425 2109. But you can reach us via WhatsApp or the regular text message on 0907 224 5018. 0907 224 5018. Also, we are on all your social media platforms. That is, we're on X, aka Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. It is at our Impact 1021 FM. That is HI Impact 1021 FM. And you can reach us also on Facebook, because we are streaming live on Facebook at our Impact Radio 102.1 FM. We are live on YouTube at our Impact 102.1 FM. So go click on the notification button and subscribe as well, so you can get to know whenever we are live right here in the studio. My name is Uche Okorie. Welcome to the show. Okay, it's time for me to go straight to the papers that we have with us this morning right here on the newspaper review. And I will be starting with the Daily Trust today. And the Daily Trust leads with this one: tax reforms. Tax reforms. Governors reject VAT hike. Propose new sharing formula. It has one right after that story. Stop scrapping of TET fund. Naseni needs that. Stop scrapping of TET fund. Naseni needs that. That is on page 4 of the Daily Trust this morning. And if you've been following the news for month now, the tax reform has been on everyone's lips, on the news at least. I wouldn't say about everyday Nigerians if they are talking about it as much as they should be talking about it, but you get what I mean. And we've seen different, people come out to say different things, some for and some against the tax reform bill. The presidency is for the motion that this is the way to go. This is how to get us back into that particular sport to regain economic freedom and all of that. And governors have been against, some governors per se have been against this particular reform, with most of them focused on the VAT increase, and they've come out to say no to it. They met yesterday at the Governors Forum, and where they collectively rejected the value-added tax increase. And we also saw ASU coming out to talk about that, at least the YOLO chapter of ASU now, coming out to talk about how the tax reform bill will lead to scrapping of TET fund, and that will lead the public education system to chaos. And so there are so many angles to why so many persons are saying no to the tax reform bills, and there are angles to why the federal government is saying yes to the tax reform bills. Now the question is, do the people really know what these angles are? Do the people really know which angle favors them the most? Do the people really have knowledge on the tax reform bills? I've always been of the opinion that More enlightenment needs to be done. The Nigerian Orientation Agency needs to do more. I think more people need to find out what this tax reform bill entails in general, what it means for the everyday Nigerians. We've seen in one quarter of the federal government saying the tax reform bill is a means to stop taxing poverty. And, and in other quarters up north, we've seen them reject the bill totally, saying it seems like it's against that particular region, which the federal government has come out to say no, it's not. And so we've seen different angles to it. But I still fear that the people who deserve to know all angles of what is happening with the tax reform bill actually do not know the angles at which they will take to make sure that they have superb knowledge on what is going on and how it's going on, or if it will favor them at the end of the day. Anyways, moving on to other stories which we have right here on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. There's a huge picture actually right here on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, and it has to do with the Nigerian Governors Forum, where they met yesterday to discuss the issues, and which they came out with a rejection of the VAT hike and also the proposed new sharing formula. So in case you want to see those who are there, go grab the Daily Trust this morning and you will find out all of the details you need for that story in particular. And we see this one: families of Zamfara airstrike victims demand compensation. That story you can find on page 3, I beg your pardon. Underneath it, Israel kills 75 Palestinians amid ceasefire. Israel kills 75 Palestinians amidst ceasefire deal. Man, that is not good. We heard on the news yesterday that there is a ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian Gaza, to be precise. And so for us to see on the papers this morning that 75 people were still killed amid the deal, let's just hope it was something that happened maybe before the deal was put to paper finally. And I can imagine how gutted some people will be at the Palestinian side, saying, okay, there was a ceasefire deal and you still had to take a shot at us. Well, hopefully peace will truly reign around that side. Other stories right in front of the Daily Trust. We see presidency to Sanusi: don't undermine our reforms. You find that one on page 5. Beside it, oil and gas, Lokpobiri assures of sustained collaboration. That story you can see on page 29 of the Daily Trust newspaper, in case you want to find out what kind of collaboration is the Minister of State for Oil Petroleum is talking about. Well, you need to go look at the papers for you to get all of those details this morning. Just underneath the nameplate of the Daily Trust today: truck kills 6 family members, 8 others in Benue. Truck kills 6 family members, 8 others in Benue. That story, it is on page 3. A really, really sad one. May God rest their soul and grant the family the fortitude to bear the loss. Beside this one, Abuja Kaduna Kano Road ready in 14 months. That is according to the federal government. Abuja Kaduna Kano Road ready in 14 months. That story you will see on page 9 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And finally, on the Daily Trust this morning, 6 terrorists, 5 soldiers die in Sokoto gun duel. 6 terrorists, 5 soldiers die in Sokoto gun duel. A really, really sad one. That is for the soldiers that we lost, because at least they were there to defend our freedom. They were there to make sure our lives were safe, or our lives are safe rather. It's sad to see that we had to lose 5 gallant men, 5 brave men, and I wish the family all the condolences that I can give, and I do hope the federal government will make sure that that family is not neglected, because we were talking about this yesterday, saying how It is sad that those ones who give their lives for the freedom of Nigeria their families do not get to, enjoy uh, things that would have make them more comfortable in terms of monetary assistance and all of that. Because if their child were alive, probably he would be doing that for them. So it's only fair the federal government of Nigeria continues to assist in any way they can to make sure that family is comfortable. So that's the best we can take on the Daily Trust this morning. But hey, stay tuned. Many more stories for you on the newspaper review.
Doing? My name is Toluwasha Kumi. Yep, I know that I'm just joining you. Hello. It's a Friday edition, so I think I'm getting into
it's
the
a freestyle Friday.
A little too early. But yeah, good morning, and I hope you are doing fine wherever it is that you are watching us from and also listening to us too. So yeah, Uche just finished with the Daily Trust, and we're moving on quickly to the Punch newspaper. And what do we have here? Dangote Refinery Project, 650,000 BPD June, planned crude imports. And this one is on page 19. The writer here says facility now producing 500,000 BPD as officials look beyond Nigeria to meet demand for products. That is what the Punch newspaper is saying right here on the front page. And beside the nameplate, we find Pengasan Project's petrol price hike as crude cost rises. Pengasan Project's petrol price hike as crude cost rises. This one is on page 2. We still have more stories here above the nameplate. Governors propose new VAT sharing formula. OK tax bills. Governors propose new VAT sharing formula. OK tax bills. That story is on page 2. And besides that, DHQ blames foreigners for renewed terror attacks. DHQ blames foreigners for renewed terror attacks. Page 14. Page 12 talks about a 12.3 billion naira fraud. EFCC to arraign Otudeko, ex-First Bank Managing Director, Monday. That one is on page 12. Lots of stories here on the Punch newspaper. Fubara, Wike camps clash as police occupy Rivers PDP secretariat. Fubara, Wike camps clash as police occupy Rivers PDP secretariat. That one on page 12. Want to know more about it? Just head on and get the Punch newspaper. Ogun guard arrested for alleged defilement of 6-year-old. Ogun guard arrested for alleged defilement of 6-year-old. I saw you grunt there. It's a huge one.
It's a pathetic one too, if we are being honest with ourselves, because this is something that I do not get. Looking at the picture which we have on the front page of the papers this morning, I can imagine that this guy will be in his late 40s or probably in his early 50s from picture I see here. And for you to be moved or aroused, as the case may be, by a 6-year-old child For me, it's sick, and for me, I think it deserves capital punishment.
Not only sick, there are people who have even done worse.
Yeah, way worse, and
Way
and that's
worse.
why I think it deserves a capital punishment. And I say so because you're ruining a child's life. A 6-year-old child has no business with sexual activities. A 10-year-old child has no business with sexual activities.
You know, I gave one solution one time, but he said it was too much.
Well, well, you
So
know,
it was too much. I'm
but
sure. I feel like maybe if one person, just one person, they get that one person and they do that to one person,
You know.
everybody will just arrange themselves well, because this is just annoying.
it's really annoying because I see no reason why you would think for everybody that you're interested in, it's a 6-year-old child you decide to go close to, and I feel there's nothing you want to say that is rape of the highest order. And it's not only I think it's worse than, in as much as rape is not good for any kind of person, yours is triple times worse than when you now do that to a child, because a 6-year-old child, mentally you might have ruined her. It will only take God's grace for that kind of
To
child,
her to be fine.
mentally, psychologically, to be fine.
These are the kind of things that we hear every single time. Stuff like this happen for maybe either boys and girls, because this happens.
There's situations with boys too.
And then they grow up and then they have messed up teenagehood. They have messed up. How am I going to put it? Messed up teenagehood, messed up adulthood.
Messed up
And then
adulthood.
they try to get help, and then they realize it's from the roots because of one particular incident.
Honestly, and you get to see it, we've always said most things have a ripple effect. There's always a ripple effect to any action that happens to someone's life. It only takes a few persons who escape, the trauma and all of that. Some people turn rapists to themselves. Some of them become what they were, what someone did to them. They hurt, they transfer to other people, and it's creating a ripple effect in the society. And so,
Exactly.
this kind of stories, if found guilty, because it's an alleged crime, if found guilty, I think the highest punishment
Should be
needs
given.
to be meted to anybody found in this kind of situation, for whatever reason, as long as it has to do with rape, and worst of all, a minor involved. Man, there's no forgiveness for that one.
Honestly.
In my books, at least, there's really no forgiveness for that one.
The stories like this, honestly, that punishment, if one person just gets it, everybody will arrange themselves. But
Well,
yeah, this one is on page 5 if you want to get more details on them. And then lastly, INEC deletes 7,746 dead persons from voter register. INEC deletes 7,746 dead persons from voter register. That one is on page 7. Okay, we have huge pictures here below the front news. State governors and stakeholders during a consultative session with the Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms in Abuja. That one was on yesterday. So yeah, those are all the papers that we have right here. Okay, then. That's all.
Okay, from the Punch newspaper straight to the Vanguard this morning. Before we go to the Vanguard, remember you can always be a part of the conversation. If you reach us on 0704 425 2109, 0704 425 2109, or you can reach us via WhatsApp or the regular text message on 0907 224 5018, 0907 224 5018. The Vanguard newspaper, it leads with the tax bills that has the governor's meeting yesterday, which we were talking about from the Punch newspaper. And it says this one: governors offer new formula for sharing VAT proceeds. It has a couple of riders to that study. It says on this one, proposed VAT distribution based on 50% equality 30% derivation, 20% population. The next writer says, back Tinubu on reforms. Why the third one says, why North is jittery over tax reforms. That is according to Senator Akpoti Uduaghan. You find that story on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Also, on the front page, you get to see the governors together with the Presidential Committee on tax reforms. So, go look at the Vanguard newspaper for you to have all of those details this morning, for you to know the governors that were there and those ones who are in the Presidential Committee that made those decisions in their meeting yesterday. Okay, so on page 2 on the Vanguard newspaper, you will get to see the story about a rowdy session in National Assembly as IGP presents a 2025 budget. There was a rowdy session in the National Assembly as IGP presents 2025 budget. And the rowdy session, well, okay, so the governor got to a point, not the governor, the IGP, that is the president of Egbetekun, got to a point where he was talking about, allocations given to them to build zonal headquarters or zonal offices at the different political zones in Nigeria. And one of the senators actually stood up while he was speaking and interjected and said, how come whatever he was saying and presenting to them is not what is on the documents in his hands? Saying it is, as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he needs to have the documents of whatever the IGP is presenting to them, which I think he was also interjected by another, leader of the house and all of that. And he got pissed. He exchanged words with other people while he was leaving and he was being jeered at and all of that. Then he left and there was, conclusion. It came back to normal and the IGP continued with his presentation on, on defending what is going to be for the 2025 budget. And so, moving on from that story, beside this one, how hardship drives some Nigerians to look for food in garbage. How hardship drives some Nigerians to look for food in garbage. It's really sad, I really find it sad. But other writers that was on that story says it's national emergency with devastating consequences. That's according to experts. One of grave health risk for children, says scavengers at risk of lead poisoning, cancer, malnutrition, mental injuries, others. Scavenging strips people of human dignity. That's according to a sociologist. And finally, call for social safety nets to reduce poverty. I take that one more time. Call for social safety nets to reduce poverty. The poverty is on a really, really high rise, with allegedly over 60%. Some arguing over 70% of Nigerians, below poverty line. And so it is sad. So it means that every corner, every nook and cranny you look, there is poverty lurking in the corners, and it's sad. It's sad. You're one mistake away from you thinking you're comfortable to poverty with what the economy is saying now. And even to a great extent, to those who felt comfortable in the past. Now, I am one of those persons who sometimes before getting something, I'm like, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it? This is just for.
And it's probably what you need, dude.
And sometimes it's just like maybe cravings. Sometimes probably you're craving for something real bad, and you'll be like, man, this cravings now. If I total this will take me from this so place to so place, and I have somewhere I'm going to tomorrow. It's crazy.
You can't even live life a little.
You can't even just enjoy the frivolities of life. Like, just enjoy things that you just want to enjoy because you want to enjoy them for enjoying sake. You now have to plan everything. I'm always particular. I'm always particular about one thing in particular.
Okay.
Corns, banana, and granuts. Okay. These are things I try to get casually. But nowadays you go here to find, you're like, oh really? This is expensive, man. These are not things you get casually anymore.
For corn?
For corn, for bananas and granuts, for barley and You know.
Okay, okay.
Anyways. Okay, other stories that we find on the Vanguard newspaper. You see this one. Kidnapping Nigerians may have paid 10 trillion naira ransom in 2024. That is according to Soludo. Let's not just go there. Above the nameplates this morning. Caught. Okay. I take that one more time. Crude oil price will detect petrol pump cost. That is according to Lokobiri. It is on page 19. Influx of eSwap. Sovereign governors mobilize, activate regional security. Page 7 is where that story is. FG to Emir Sanusi. We don't need your approval for Tinubu's laudable policies. You find that one on page 9. It says, we do not need your approval for Tinubu's laudable policies. And it's been a long time we took Mr. and Mrs. And so I just want to go there just for the sakes of cartoons. And it says, staying with the curve means to keep up with current trends, developments, or changes in a particular field or industry. It has nothing to do with curvy women. Answer in simple question, Mrs. says, is your secretary curvy or not? Oh man, no one answers that question. How are you supposed to see if your secretary is curvy or not? You're not supposed to notice. You're not supposed to notice that in any way. The fact that you acknowledge that you've noticed that, you've cheated in all ramifications.
Just close your eyes.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes. It's worse when it's even your secretary. Even if it's someone just walking by, you can't admit. More or less your secretary who you see every single day, you admit that. Man, well, that's the much we can take for the Vanguard this morning.
And lastly, we are right here on the Guardian newspaper. Big stories on pages 4 and 5. War against terrorists, caught in the middle. Survivors count cost of accidental airstrikes. War against terrorists, caught in the middle. Survivors count cost of accidental airstrikes. Accidental airstrikes. Can you imagine?
I really do know. I really do not want to, delve too much into it, but we have no choice because we need to talk about these things. And now it goes again to when I talk about intelligence gathering and all of that. And I say this because it's important. First and foremost, for this recent one which happened, we even heard when we heard that it was info after an attack took place, and information was called, and the Air Force came in, attacked, and scores of terrorists were killed, no doubt about it. But it was just so sad that security forces, local security forces, vigilantes were also caught up in this web. And I feel sad because I feel when things like this happen, a lot of intelligence should have been given for you to know sections at which, okay, it's friendlies and unfriendlies. So with friendlies being, maybe citizens or people who are in support of the government and all of that. And for you to not have all those reports before taking airstrikes is something alarming. And I wouldn't say they didn't have all the reports that were due. I would say probably there were miscommunications, and maybe those places also included where the reports came from and says terrorists actually existed. And so when people are gathered and probably receive reports that, okay, this enclave also has to do with terrorists, and people are gathered and they are vigilantes, so I assume probably they're with guns and all of that. So you don't know what might happen. And it is why I say it's important intelligence is taken to a different new level. Not only because of all of these things, because of even stopping some of these things before they happen. We were talking about the importance of intelligence in security yesterday. And this is one other reason why it cannot be overemphasized.
I still don't understand the fact that when it comes to these things, maybe the military base and whatever, they're trying to get terrorists,
Mm-hmm.
one way or the other, there are some times whereby you can't control it, whereby the citizens and these terrorists, they're in the same particular place, and then you need to make a decision. But for them to actually, for the survivors to say that they are
Mm-hmm.
counting the cost of accidental airstrikes, that
It's not just
means
one.
it's like there is no proper planning. We still understand that, okay, maybe one, the citizens and maybe terrorists were caught up in the same place and you needed to make a quick decision.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's like 3 times, 4 times, no.
It's really, really crazy, and
Come on.
that is why intelligence has to be made a priority before most of all these things. Once there is good intelligence available and very credible intelligence, it prevents things from even happening before it happens, where you go to neutralize them before they even come into the community in any way at all. And even if per se they beat intelligence and come into the community and perpetrate some sort of crime, you have enough intelligence to know, okay, this is where they are now, this is where it's safe, this is where to
Then you
carry your
can
attack, and all of
monitor
that.
those
Intelligence is really important, because 14 vigilantes, 14 lives, 14 husbands, 14 uncles, 14 brothers. It is sad, it is terrible, and more needs to be done when it comes to dealing with this bandits, these terrorists. We need to make sure that our people are not caught in the crossfires of all of these things.
Exactly. It's a really huge, sad story. And we're still on The Guardian, and we still have more. Federal government NIMC launched digital cards to assist farmers. Others. Federal government NIMC launched digital cards to assist farmers. Others. This one is on page 7. Okay. We have Boko Haram ambush. United Nations demand justice for 40 killed in Borno. UN demands justice for 40 killed in Borno. That one is on page 20. EFCC to arraign ex-bank chiefs over alleged 12.3 billion naira fraud. EFCC to arraign ex-bank chiefs over alleged 12.3 billion naira fraud. Page 7. Move on to page 28. PDP shuns Ondo local government poll as police restrict movement. 1 miscreants. PDP shuns Ondo local government poll as police restrict movement. 1 miscreants. Again, that one is on page 28. On the next page, we find police seal PDP secretariat in Rivers over leadership crisis. Police seal PDP secretariat in Rivers over leadership crisis. Want to know all about that? Head on to page 29.
Well, before they head on to page 29, it's really alarming what we get to see almost every time when it comes to the PDP and Rivers State. And I tell you wholeheartedly, it's not stopping anytime soon. We've gotten to realize that, since after the court order, where the Rivers State runs a government where right now it's the governor and 3 parliament members, running the state affairs. And so there are these 26 of them who, decamped, and they're not actually available on seat to be House of Rep members, although with rumors alleging, secret sources, alleging that some have been at the back corners trying to, solicit with the governor to come back into the system, which seems impossible at this time. But we still have a lot of loyalists to Wike, who happens to be the minister of the Federal Capital Territory. And so because of that, there's still this rancor, there's still this, tense air in Rivers State where, there's still a fight for power going on, a tussle for power going on. And in as much as now the governor is working in the sense that the court has given a go-ahead for Parliament to continue with the governor. It means he has all the capacity to do his job at this point. I think it's important for the governor in particular, in the person of Sim Fubara, to focus on governance and try to, keep away from most of all of this, dirty politics and focus more on giving the people the dividends of democracy. In as much as I know this will always it will continue until 2027, and it's no game. It will continue. Well, it is a game for some of them, but he needs to find a way to focus on giving dividends of democracy, because 2027, I tell you wholeheartedly, there will be moves to prevent him from coming again for second term, and only if he gives the people the dividends of democracy will the people be behind him to say, oh, okay, we saw what you did, in as much as maybe the power that be per se that and I say the power that be per se because we do understand that he was also part of the Wike's government, at least, and he was also a Wike loyalist before at least he became governor. And so, in as much as we know the powers that be, one way or the other, is making things uncomfortable for him to govern in Rivers State, he needs to look beyond it. And because it's his performance in this remaining few years, we have barely 2 years to 2027, it's his performance that will determine if the people would say, okay, we want you to reseat for next governor in 2027, with some claiming permutations, like because we saw in Rivers State where a new party swept all the local government local councils. We also saw that in Abia State, where some are permutating that these parties were created by allegedly created by the state governors to have some sort of balance or some sort of escape in case the party they are with now are not in support of them,
like
for come to a plan B. And so there are rumors around that part when it comes to these governors, especially in Rivers State, because it's a crisis. Wike is still in the PDP. He is also in the PDP. And so come 2027, I'm sure there will be contestants. Wike will definitely have probably some other choice of persons. And we do know how the kind of power Wike swings when it comes to Rivers State politics. And so there's so much to see when it comes to the politics happening in Rivers State. But it's important the politics does not overshadow the duty to the people. In terms of what the governor is meant to do, not focus on the politics, but on the duty to the people.
Interesting. This story is actually big and huge.
Yeah,
And
yes,
like
it
you said,
is.
It's not
It
going to
is.
be ending anytime soon.
Not ending anytime soon, I tell you.
We have more. Page 6 is talking about tax reforms. Governor's presidency shelve VAT hike, agree on new revenue sharing formula. Tax reform. Governor's presidency shelve VAT hike, agree on new revenue sharing formula. Hopefully we get to see and get to know all about that. But if you want to get details for now, just head on to page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Rowdy session at National Assembly over budget defense. We talked about that earlier. This one is on page 3. DHQ blames external forces, local collaborators for terrorism surge in Northeast. DHQ blames external forces, local collaborators for terrorism surge in Northeast. This one, page 6. And then lastly, rebasing, focus on economic reforms, stable fiscal policies, LCCI charges federal government. I'll take that again. Rebasing, focus on economic reforms, stable fiscal policies, LCCI charges federal government. This last story is on the business page 16. And that is all we have here for the Guardian newspaper.
Impact Radio 102.1 FM, and yes, that's the much we have on the papers for this morning. But it's important for us to note something which is really, really vital. And I want to look at this particular one because most times we do not get to talk about some of all these stories because maybe they're
Yeah.
not really as attractive as the big stories. And this one has to do with the federal government and the NIMC launching of digital cards to assist farmers and
You know,
others.
that story caught my eye. That story caught my eye. I was like, you know what, let's just finish because in my
You
mind I
know.
was like, okay,
What's happening? You know,
okay.
and I say this because I sometimes feel like we lose priority on things that we need to focus on first and foremost. Because now, how is this meant to assist the farmers and others having digital cards? We're talking about a society where uh, even for us to have the physical cards has been a no-no. I remember when I did my national identity registration, which is far back as 2018. That is me not trying to, go backward to about 2017 and all of that. But if I can put a huge bet, if I'm a betting man, I could bet it was 2017. You know, until date. And this is like 8 years
You still
later.
not gotten the physical card.
I still do not have the physical card.
You know, there was a time I actually went probably to like a cafe and I saw some people. It was like the NIMC. It wasn't the original one, but they were like it can still be.
Oh yeah,
used.
you can actually print. You can. It's online. You have the app where you can actually
Yes,
bring
yes,
out
yes.
some of these cards, but we do know how the main physical card
It
is
looks like
and what it's all
been
about.
Too
So,
long.
way
Why
too
does
long.
it take so much time?
And now, and since we're talking about it with farmers and others, I do not know the details. When it comes to farming now, we're facing a huge problem in farming system. We're talking about insecurity. We're talking about mechanized farming, which is not what it is in this part of the world right now. Even if it exists, probably at the barely 5, 6, 7, 10, 15%. And that is going to be for eyebrow farmers and all of that. We need to focus on the priority, building the basic things before we get to some other stuff. Creating a digital image. Well, there could be a way they want to, maybe it will help, link every farmer and everybody will know who is a farmer, who is into farming, and some other
Another thing to even consider is these farmers. Are you just grouping them all at one, or is it both the local ones and the ones who are very educated? Because
You know-
you also need to look at this part too. How is it going to benefit the ones that are in the village
the ones who
or who don't know so much?
who do not even get to even, they've not even done the normal national ID card.
You're not doing digital.
because now you're going digital, and you going digital again with them is it's beautiful. It's not like it's a bad thing, like, and all of that, but sometimes we need to get somewhere before we get somewhere else. There are some basic things we need to put in place before we get somewhere else. The farmers need to get to a certain extent where they know that now this, apart from just eating out of this, they need to start making good living from it first.
Sure.
They need to start making more. It needs to become some sort of career that people are proud of. Most people who are into farming in Nigeria are basically just feeding their family. They're not earning so much. Even the ones that are trying to earn so much, who are up north, who are doing big time farming and all of that, some get to even pay levies to get product out of the bush because of insecurity. So we need to clear so many things away before we start thinking of some other things. In as much as I get the point, there's nothing that they want to do now that won't be important. It will, at the long run, be important and help farmers, like they say, no doubt about it. But there are some other things we need to take as priority first and put in place before we start moving to other things. It's a beautiful development, no doubt about it. Because it makes it easy. We could digitally, we could know who are those who are farmers, who are these, who are that, and all of that. It's beautiful. The world has gone digital. But you need to catch up. You need to catch up first.
I feel in a world there will always just be you can't like separate them. There will always still be like categories of people. There are people who
Of
understand
course,
this
of
thing. There are
course.
people who are getting to understand. There are
Of
some who
course.
do. There are some people
They have no
who don't even care.
idea. And
You have to convince them
and
again.
I bet you that over 90% of Nigerian farmers have no idea what
they
you're
are
talking about
about.
when you're talking about digital and all of that. They have no idea because they're local farmers. If we're saying over 10% are, high grade, top big farmers in Nigeria, 10% of Nigerians into farming, that's huge numbers. and I doubt that.
That's really
And I doubt that.
Because we are still we're still saying that okay, we are still importing stuff.
We-
We are still very
we're
far
importing
when it comes to
almost
farming.
everything when it comes to food. We're importing so many things, And when it comes to, in as much as we have enough to produce for ourselves, we have enough to feed ourselves. If we decide to, invest properly into farming, we have enough to go for a long, long time to take care of ourselves, to even export. There was a time we were exporting yam, but it just didn't meet up to, standard. Some because we were having the, probably because of the kind of, chemicals used to maintain and, how would I put this? There's this
Like preservatives.
preservatives. Thank you. I was looking for the word. It's just the preservatives being used, which is also a problem. We do not
exporting it?
have no export. I talk about export,
Okay.
but it's
okay.
beautiful if we're exporting.
export,
Yeah,
sorry.
it's good. Yeah.
My mind went to import.
Yeah. So we were exporting at one point, but preservatives, it means it couldn't meet the standards out there and all of that. So most times they get rejected. At one point, I don't know if that's still happening. Probably it has gotten way better now and all of that. But it also shows one thing which is lacking in our farming system: having good storage systems where our food can be stored properly and meet world standards for export. These are things that we need to focus on when it comes to our agriculture. Once we've sorted all those things out, we can move to something else. It's not like it's a bad idea, it's a beautiful idea, but focus on other things. Focus on making sure that our national identity is 100 first before you start branching to try to do other things. Even that one, we are not 100 yet. You still go to their offices and you see hundreds of thousands of people still trying to get that done. And you want to start some other thing? One by one, I beg. Make we no kill ourselves. It's easier to just say things. It's easier said than done.
I didn't even know that I actually caught that story. When I read it, I was like,
Okay. I guess our mind works in common then. Anyways, this is how we call it an end on today's edition of the newspaper review. It is a Friday edition, and man, are we glad it is Friday. and I do hope it's a beautiful one for you so far, but in case it's not, well, it's still bright and early in the morning, so many hours to go. All you have to do is stand up, look forward to something better, and walk towards it. And I believe me, it will come for you. So I come your way again on Monday for another exciting edition of the newspaper review. Well, we will be here tomorrow for the Big Five, yes? And so, hey, you need to catch up for the Big Five for you to get all of the stories, 5 of the major stories that made it throughout this week. That will be tomorrow. Monday, I will be back. The newspaper review will be back. But until then, thank God it's Friday. My name is Uche Okovie.
TGIF, thank God it's Friday. Toluwasha Kiyomi. The Morning Impact Show continues. Do not go anywhere.